America, and welcome to this morning's huddle. My name is Darrell Moon, and I'll be your host today, and thank you for being with us. We hope you'll join the conversation. We have a wonderful guest panelist with us today to talk about promoting fitness for mental well-being. We're holding these huddles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in an effort to support those who may be struggling, to brainstorm strategies to help, to promote resources for emotional well-being, and to engage collaboration. Now to introduce today's guest. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Amy Javens, founder of Script Fit, LLC. She's an endurance coach and a former professional triathlete. I'm going to give Amy a chance to introduce herself for a few minutes here in a second. But before I do, I want to invite you who are participating today to join the conversation. If you'd like to send in a question, do that through your questions on the control box, or if you'd like to have us turn on your microphone and actually join the conversation and ask questions, just simply raise your hand on your control box and I'll turn on your mic. So, Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Darrell. My name's Amy Javens, and as Darrell said, I come to you with a fitness and a professional athletic background. I was in education for a number of years in the public school system. And recently, in the last 10 years, I shifted paths a bit and I've gotten into the fitness and endurance coaching industry. So in a way, I'm combining my background of education with my passion of fitness and endurance coaching. I am the owner of Script Fit LLC, which is a coaching company for the general fitness population. So my husband and I do online coaching for clients who are looking to get better fitness and to make some better lifestyle changes. My husband's a physical therapist, so we bring movement analysis into our programming for our clients and help them live a better and healthier and a higher quality of life. The other aspect of what I do is with QT2 Systems, which is an endurance coaching company. They're based out of Boston, but our coaches are from all over the nation. And we specialize in endurance coaching, anything from 5K running up to Ironman triathlons to ultra trail racing. So we have coaches on our staff who tailor to those kind of athletes. I'm also the QT2 training coordinator with Team in Training, which is the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's charity team. So what we do, and I have a team of QT2 athletes or QT2 coaches who work with me, is we help program the training plans for Team in Training, and we also offer instruction and education and continuing education for the Team in Training coaches and also the athletes. And we also do we develop resources within Team in Training on the training side of things. So I do a little bit of everything, but in a big nutshell, I help people live healthier and higher quality lives. And I'm also a mother of 3 daughters. My husband and I live outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and about an hour north of Pittsburgh. And we have 3 college-age daughters, one that just graduated.
Nice, nice. So Amy, let's talk just a little bit about this topic today of how fitness affects our mental and emotional well-being. Tell just kind of generally, what do you find as you work with clients? What's that connection?
It's a huge mind-body connection. I think, fitness helps us in so many different ways, and I think our definition of fitness is with different people. Being fit might just, for someone who might be older, would be just balancing better or moving better, being able to do things that help them, that bring enjoyment into their lives and bring a higher quality to their lives. So fitness for one individual might be something like that. With what my husband does, he sees a lot of, the elderly population. He also sees, athletes too. He does a lot of orthopedic work too, but fitness might be that definition for that person, for an elderly person, so they can get out and move and enjoy enjoy the world around them. Or fitness helps with our emotions, and it helps, of course, you've heard about the runner's high and the endorphins we get after we move our bodies. Doesn't have to be running a race, but just walking around the park. That's what I did this morning. I walked around the park, and I know I need to start my day off like that. So a lot of what we do with our clients is just getting them moving and seeing the positive things that movement does to their emotions, and helps them with leading just a more profitable, efficient day. You may listen to some of the famous speakers and motivators out there, like Rachel Hollis or Tony, slipping my mind right now. Some of the people who are out there, and one of the things they always say is you have to move first thing in the morning. You've got to get yourself moving, and the rest of the day will fall into place for you. Prioritizing yourself and helping yourself think a little bit more clearly is important. So there's a lot there between being fit and helping your mental well-being.
What is the science behind that? Any ideas to why, by getting up and moving and walking and running and getting our bodies going? Talk a little bit about those endorphins, and why is it that our brain needs that energy?
Well, it does. Like, depression is so relevant in our world, in our society right now, and especially right now, right? There's a lot of things that aren't going right, and with that, it brings on our depression kind of feelings, and with the endorphins, it helps alert our minds. Our mind becomes a bit more active when we have endorphins that are going through our system. So to be able to think a little bit more clearly, we need to move a little bit better, and combat maybe some of those depressive feelings that we're having. I think a lot of times we're really quick to reach for a pill to make ourselves happy, or to think a little bit more clearly, when a walk in the woods might just do the exact same thing for you. So I'm a believer that medicine does have its place, but let's try some of these other things to help lift our depressive moods and to help us think more clearly than reaching for that pill right away. And it could be not just through movement, but also with the quality of foods that we're eating and we're putting into our body.
We had a guest panelist on Monday, Dr. Paul Larson, who's the global director of health for UPMC. And we talked a lot about, he as a primary care physician is right now going through a lifestyle medicine certification to learn better how, as a physician and a primary care physician, do you write a script to be more active? How do you prescribe better eating habits? Because it is, the typical physician visit is, here's my symptoms, here's your diagnosis, and here's a drug. Here's a medication, here's a pill. And it was enlightening to have him talk about how important it is for a doctor to become more familiar with exercise and nutrition, and to actually encourage the patients. Doctors can play a huge role. They have a tremendous influence, and often that is what patients need. They just need to get up and move. They don't need to sit.
They just need to move. A lot of what I do is, I'm not just programming for my clients or my athletes. I'm also steering them in the right direction at the same time, and helping them make better lifestyle changes. So what I started with a coach probably about 10 years for myself, and for the last 10 years, the majority of the time, I've had my own coach for me. And it's nice to have that watchful eye on you.
Accountability partner.
An accountability, somebody that is going to read your daily submissions of how your walk went, or how a strength regimen went, or if there's a new ache and what should I do. If I have an inflammation, a chronic disease that I need to change my diet for, what foods can I choose to do that, instead of reaching for that pill. And it's great to see physicians who are going into the lifestyle medicine and the holistic medicine, and basically partnering up with teams of people around each other, but whether it's a fitness coach or an endurance coach or a registered dietitian or a psychologist or a mental training coach. You know, it's important to have all of those people working together to help an individual becoming just well and healthy.
Talk a little bit about the psychology of an athlete. You know, I'm sure when you coach someone, it's a lot more than just the physical aspect, it's the psychology of it too. Talk a little bit about how important that is, the mindset of any athlete.
Very important. The mind-body connection's huge, and the body's not going to be able to do something if the mind isn't there or if the emotion isn't there. With the system that I work with at QT2, we have our endurance coach like myself, and we also work hand in hand with a registered dietitian who helps that individual make wiser nutritional choices, and she prescribes fueling plans for them so that they have energy when they go out on their bike rides or their runs and their walks. But we also have a mental training coach that we work with also, who is a licensed psychologist, and she offers mental training plans also for athletes. So the mental side of things is big. We always like to refer back to the United States Olympic Committee sports psychologists. They have a really nice manual out there that I think it's been out for maybe 10 years, United States Olympic Committee Sports Psychology Manual. And in that manual, they talk about different traits that help an athlete overcome the mental barrier. And really, we're not just talking athletes here, we're just talking about people in general, some attributes that we need to work on for our mental training and our mental fitness. One is goal setting, and having a big goal at the end of the road and then tiny goals to get us to that big goal. Another would be something like self-confidence. Working on self-confidence. So we do a lot of that with our athletes. I have a little regimen I put my athletes through where if I see something needs to be worked on, if there's a lot of degrading self-talk an athlete is putting upon themselves, then we need to work on a little bit of self-confidence. Something like focus and concentration is big, and in our time in world right now, we have so many things coming at us with social media and you know, everything's like at our fingertips, right? Of things that we can be distracted by. So focus and concentration is another one. So the mental side of things and athletics is really big. And I teach that as a coach, but I also have experienced that as an athlete too. When I had competed professional on the Ironman circuit, I had a couple bike crashes I had that played on my mental side of things, and I myself went to a sports psychologist to help me through some of those things, and it was a very interesting experience. A sports psychologist from the Pittsburgh area, Dr. Pappas, who happens to be the sports psychologist for many years, no longer, but many years with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was a very unique experience for me, and I learned a lot from that, not only as an athlete, but as a coach also, of how I could help my athletes too.
I love what you said about having a big goal and having lots of little goals. So I'd be curious, what are some of the big goals that your clients who are athletes or training for a 5K or a marathon or a triathlon, what are some of the different big long-term goals that inspire people to do that kind of thing?
Right. So an activity that I do with my athletes is I have them give me an unrealistic goal. All right. Something that's unrealistic, like I'm going to win the world championships in the pro division, all right? Something unrealistic. And then I have them give me a goal that would be really easy to achieve, like a lot of the athletes who come to me on the endurance side of things have already been endurance athletes for a while, most of them. So going out and running 10 minutes might be something that would be a very easy, doable goal. And then we talk about goals that are like hard, but we think we can be able to achieve them. And then we start talking a little bit about process mindset goals. And it's not so much about that superstar end goal that we want to get to, but all of the little processes and the steps that are going to be able to get us to that goal. So I really try, like a lot of times I have athletes who come and say, I want to qualify for the World Championships, or I want to run, a 4-hour marathon, or so instead of having it more of a numerical goal, I try to set them up with establishing what are the processes that we have to do to be able to get to that big goal that you may be able to do. It's reasonable, but it's going to be hard. You may be able to do. So I try to shift their mindset from quantitative to more of a qualitative mindset. And there are things in life that aren't controllable, right? Like COVID, the coronavirus wasn't controllable. The day you think you're going to run your 4-hour marathon, even though like maybe training indicates that you were going to be running that 4-hour marathon, it might be 95 degrees with 100% humidity. It might not happen. So it's setting up mindset, and that helps my athletes not only in their sport, but it also helps them in life too. That to approach life with more of a process mindset than an end result kind of mindset.
Well, and I like what you said. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between setting a goal of your own improvement versus a goal that involves someone else. Because if I set a goal to win a certain championship, I'm really now in competition with other people's efforts to reach their goals, where if I set a goal for myself to improve at a certain level, that's a goal I can work towards achieving, and I may have total control over that, where in the other case, I may not have any control. What's the importance of maybe those different kinds of goals?
Huge. We should never be establishing a goal to beat somebody else, because there are so many things that are uncontrollable that might happen that you can't control how that person's training's going if that's the person you are competing against. So it's definitely it's personal goals. It's again, it's process mindset. It's not a fixed mindset like I have to be this or I have to beat that or I have to beat this person. It's if you just take care of what you need to do and put one foot in front of the other and make yourself better than you were yesterday, that's all what matters at the end of the day.
Well, I think that's so important, not only in running, in an athlete or athletics, but in all aspects of our life. So often we get caught up with comparing ourselves with someone else that we lose sight of the mindset should be about us doing our very best. And that can contribute to stress, anxiety, depression, emotional struggles if our focus is comparative versus am I making the effort to improve what I need to do? Am I overcoming my struggles, my ruts, my frustrations? I think it applies to many aspects of our life.
Right. Deep down, we're all a bit of a hot mess. and I think, with social media, we don't portray the hot mess that some of us are in, right? So, everyone has their hiccups. Everyone has their handicaps. And we don't need to be comparing ourselves with the Joneses next door because, everybody has things that has issues or obstacles they need to overcome. And it all starts with just taking care of ourselves. If we take care of ourselves, whether it's with our health, with all of these actually, with our health, our fitness, our nutrition, our well-being, then we're going to be able to take care of those people around us. I'll go into a little bit about fitness for well-being and how I got started with my sport of triathlon, which I was never thought I would end up as a professional athlete about 15 years ago. So I was in a period of my life where my oldest daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and then shortly after, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and my dad was diagnosed with ALS disease. So there was a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. I have 3 other siblings to be able to tend to what their needs were. But for about 12 years were a bunch of obstacles that were just thrown, at my family's direction. So part of me coping with that was going out and running and making a goal of finishing my first marathon. And it doesn't have to be a marathon for anyone. It could be like going out and running a mile or going out and finishing your first 5K. And that was my way of coping with the stress that was placed on my family's shoulders during that time. And then one thing just sort of led to another, and I found myself where I am today. But what I really want to say about those kind of situations where we have those extra stresses and we have those curveballs thrown to us or our families throughout life is it's really important to take care of ourselves first and to put ourselves in the right mindset to be able to take care of those outside of us. If we can take care of ourselves and set ourselves up to be able to think clearly and to feel proud of maybe an accomplishment that we've had, we're going to be much more productive to those around us. And that's how I felt with what I did. Being a mother, you sometimes have these feelings, or a parent, being a parent, you have these feelings like I'm being selfish going out and training for a marathon, or I feel selfish, going out for a walk when maybe I should be doing, more in my home or helping, but if you don't do those necessary things that help clear your mind and make you feel accomplished, then you're not going to be the best you can be for other people. So with me going through that situation, it did a couple things. It brought me to another direction in my life to where I am now, where I'm a coach, for endurance coach, and also for people in the general fitness realm. But it also helped me cope through that really, really hard time where maybe it would have been easier to find a doctor who would prescribe me a pill who would make me feel a little bit happier, or other things that wouldn't have improved me as a person.
You're a coach. You're also an educator. You know about connecting with people. I love to ask the question, how important is it to develop a relationship of trust, a rapport with someone prior to trying to coach them or prior to trying to educate them? How critical is that first step of building relationships?
It's very critical. Part of my role is not only coaching my athletes to running a 5K or coaching a client to take her first 10-minute walk. Part of my job is to develop a relationship with my client or my athlete to help them, to help push them, because if there's not trust there, then the relationship doesn't blossom, and I can't teach. I prescribe programs, but I also teach too, and I pull teachable moments out of the daily submissions that my clients or my athletes subscribe or give to me every day through email. So I like to bring those teachable moments out, and it could be something that's running related, it could be something that's strength related, or it could just be a mother I'm coaching whose children are home right now during this COVID time, and she's just trying to keep her head on straight, and what do I do next? So it's really, really important. So besides being a virtual coach, a lot of people might think, how do you develop relationships with people, because it's all through email, right? It's through conversation, through email. It's some long email submissions back to an athlete about things that are happening in their life, and in a way you're part of you're a life coach too for people. And I think, and being an educator / coach, because I think educator and coach are two of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to college, I remember telling my parents, I want to be a coach. Okay, I'll be a teacher, but I want to be a coach. So I became a teacher so I could really be a coach. So it's one of the two things. So, no education is going to happen without that relationship. We've all had that teacher that we really, really loved from high school or elementary school because we had a relationship with them, right? That you knew they cared about you. So in the virtual world, how do you establish relationships? Going back to that question, with showing that you care and responding to emails. Also, Zooms are great. I'm doing a YouTube live right now with my athletes. It's just a fun indoor cycling YouTube live that I do down in my basement. It's a cycling workout I put them through, and they see my face and they see me talking. So you try to reach out in as many mediums as you can virtually. So yeah, so it's important. That's like course 101 in the teacher and the coach manual, right? Is to develop those relationships and get to know them, get to know what their children's names are and get to know your clients well.
So in this process of setting goals and trying to improve on some behavior, we all struggle with the two parts of our brain, the part of our brain that doesn't like to change, that what we call the amygdala. Somebody used the analogy the other day. It's like riding an elephant. You got the elephant, which is the amygdala, and then you got this conscious part of our brain, that prefrontal cortex is like the person riding the elephant. It's like, how do you get this part of our brain that doesn't like to change? It likes to stay where it is. It likes to be in the ruts it's in. And yet consciously we go, I want to do better. I want to accomplish something. Talk a little bit about, as a coach, how you help people with that battle internally that they're struggling with to overcome the amygdala that doesn't want to change.
I use this saying a lot: one spoonful at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Baby steps. If you look at it, this sort of goes back to that goal setting conversation that we just had. If you look at like that big, humongous goal you might have, it could be overwhelming to some people and bring up a feeling of fear, and their resistance to it might just be their fear or their lack of understanding what they have to do to get there. So with baby steps and one spoonful at the time, a lot of it is just teaching them one little skill at a time that will help them get to that larger goal. So it could be as simple as counting 1, 2, 3 in the morning, getting up and getting their running shoes on and going out. Some behavior modification, things of that nature. It could be educating them about heart rate zones. All right. So, every workout has a purpose, and we train our body through different energy zones. And teaching a person about how important it is to learn how to manipulate heart rate zones to help your overall fitness. Again, empowering athletes and clients with knowledge along the way and with education. I think the more that a person learns about something and they understand something, the more empowered they become to be able to move forward. But again, it goes back a lot to that goal setting and taking those little steps. If it's something with nutrition and trying to adopt a new way of eating, it could be something like eat one fruit today. Next week, let's eat a fruit and a vegetable. The next week, okay, let's have 3 servings of a fruit or a vegetable. It usually takes, I don't know the exact number, but I'm throwing 26 out there. It usually takes 26 attempts to be able to really learn something well. So there's going to be a lot of failure along the way. And I see failure as a good thing. It has a negative connotation, right? The big F word, the failure word. But failure is so key to push ourselves forward. No one's perfect, no matter how they portray themselves. No one's perfect, and everyone has failed. but it's just picking yourself up and learning from those failures to go ahead and move forward. But it's practicing, and it's practice makes perfect, and having, and that's where I come into play as a coach, is knowing I have someone looking after me, and knowing I have someone in my corner to help me, nudge me along the way.
You work with a lot of athletes that are already very active. They're already, they've developed a certain level of endurance. Let's just talk a little bit about someone who isn't very active, maybe the motivationally challenged type person who's just needs to start becoming more active. And obviously it's going to be different and specific to each person, but as a fitness coach, what kind of direction would you give to the person who's not been very active in the past, but it feels like they need to start? What are some advice you can give them?
I think trying to find activity in our day-to-day activity. So not so much necessarily saying, hey, we're going to go run a mile today. It would be something as simple as counting steps, right? Or it could be in maybe a purchase of something that gets them excited to move forward with a goal. So a watch that keeps track of their steps, and most of the watches, the high-tech watches out there now, the iWatches, the Apple Watches, they all keep steps now. So it could be as simply as keeping track of the number of steps that you're doing a day. Just being more active as far as like in their work environment. And a lot of us are working out of the home now, but if we're in our regular work environment, it would be taking the stairs, parking the car furthest away in the parking lot. Those are easy, measurable ways that we can start to become a little bit more active. Hey, let's go buy our first pair of running shoes. Something I would say to a client like that is like, we think you're ready for running shoes. Let's get those running shoes, new running shoes. So something that they look forward to, using. And again, I don't like to go there with so much as weight loss or a number that somebody wants to try to achieve on a scale. I like people to measure their success and their motivation by how they're feeling throughout that process, and little celebrations along the way. You got those pair of running shoes last month. Maybe you need to go buy yourself a nice pair of running shorts, to match that. Mm-hmm. So there's some motivators there too to sort of, bring them down that new path. But I think people are resistant mostly because they're fearful and they might not understand, and maybe they're fearful of their failure. And playing a role in a client or an athlete's life, or a client who might be new to general fitness, that it's okay, we'll tackle it, we'll learn about it along the way.
Well, and how important is it to get a coach? Talk a little bit about the value that having a coach can bring to the motivationally challenged, the people that maybe aren't very active, who might say, oh no, I'll never measure up, I'll just feel shamed or blamed, mm-hmm. or guilty. Talk a little bit about the message you would give to someone who's contemplating getting a coach and becoming more active.
Right. I use this a lot. It's an investment in yourself. Just like if we go to get our nails done, all right, a couple days a month, the money we spend at getting our nails done probably will equal up to what it would cost to have a coach to help mm-hmm. you feel a little bit better. So it's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your health. And what is more, there's really nothing more important than to be able to live like a healthy, quality life, right? So that's how I would approach it with most of my athletes or most of my clients starting to come in. And again, I think the fear, like, oh, my coach is going to judge me, or my coach is, going to say, oh, I can't believe they can't do that. I think trying to make sure you're establishing that relationship well with them first, so that they trust you. so that they want to go ahead and move forward.
Thanks. Amy, do you have any stories, and of course keep their names confidential, of people that you've seen some remarkable change in, where by working with them and they weren't where they ended up because they had some progress and some growth to do? Sure, maybe a story or two of some people that you've seen great success with. And it doesn't have to be somebody that won an Olympics. It could just be they made progress.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say that everyone I work with, there's some type of success in one way or another. It doesn't have to be like a world championship qualification, or it doesn't have to be like a weight loss kind of goal. So it's sort of hard to say just like one person, because everyone's situation is so
Right.
different. But the theme is people developing confidence in themselves, and because of that, they're able to be better for the other people in their life. So again, it goes back to like that goal set, where it's not so much about that big goal at the end of the road. It's about that process that's leading you there. You know, whether it's lowering your cholesterol, or you know, having a weight loss that came with the process, or being able to run your first 5K when you weren't even able to run a year ago. So it's so individual that it's hard to say, you know, it conforms to like one thing, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and we're talking about the impact that fitness can have on our emotional well-being, our mental well-being, our health, our happiness. You know, for someone who's maybe not very active and is kind of moved into a mindset of complaining, or let's just say they see the glass half empty instead of half full, sometimes that permeates and becomes more and more, and you know, kind of a curmudgeon, someone that's just always looking for something to complain about. And right now, quite honestly, there's a lot to complain about. And I think fitness and reaching fitness goals and becoming more active can play an incredibly important role in helping someone who's gotten into kind of a curmudgeon idea or attitude or state of mind to say, you know what, I need to start looking at life as the glass half full. I need to look at what I do have. And fitness is something I can control. Nobody's telling me I can't go outside and walk. Nobody's saying I can't be active. And I think fitness is one of those areas where if everything else is going wrong, this can go right. And this you can have control over it, and can move you out of that mindset of everything's woe, you know, everything's, look at, you know, I'm isolated, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. But no, let's look at what you can do.
Right. An activity I do with my clients is like I have them write a reflective log. Like if it was like a walk they were doing or a run they were doing, and it just didn't turn out the way they wanted it to, I would ask them back, tell me, like, just write what your inner dialogue was. Write what your inner dialogue was at this time. And they write it, and it's like what you mentioned, seeing the glass half empty. And when you get somebody to write down their inner dialogue, and if it's a glass half empty kind of inner dialogue, the next question I always ask is, well, would you speak to your child that way? Or would you have wanted your mother or your father to speak to you that way? And I encourage them to bring out their maternal or their paternal voice when they're seeing something or they're performing something and they have negative language that's seeing things as the glass half empty. And when you look at it that way, you think, why would I do this to myself if I wouldn't speak to my children this way, if I wouldn't have wanted my mother to speak this way? So again, then I remind them, you're your best friend. Like you're the angel on your shoulder. You're not the demon on your shoulder saying these things. You have to make sure you're always the angel on your shoulder, giving you positive things to say, because then how are we going to be able to permeate that to all those people, to the people around us that we love? So when I sort of turn it that way, people are like, yeah, like I wouldn't want anyone talking to me that way. I wouldn't want to talk to my children that way, and it makes them see things a little bit differently.
I actually love that. That's a great idea. And it's not about parenting them or correcting them. It's about how would you how would you talk to your children? You know, how would your parent want to talk to you? Take a drink of
Right,
water. I just
right.
lost my voice.
Exactly. Have you ever heard, and I don't have this memorized, have you ever heard of the tale of the two wolves, the good wolf and the bad wolf?
Mhm.
It's a Native American tale, and I can't say it off the top of my head, but it talks about the good wolf and the bad wolf. And you know, which one do you believe? Well, it's the one you listen to the most. So you want to listen to the good wolf, you don't want to listen to the bad wolf. Yeah, so when you turn it around that way, it sort of makes people think, yeah, I wouldn't want to wouldn't want someone talking to me this way, so why am I talking to myself this way?
Now you had the experience, you were telling me earlier that you were involved in athletics as a child, through high school, through college. It's been kind of a thing. Some people have not. Some people maybe have never been involved in athletics, never been involved in sports, never been very active in their life. But it's like, you know, I need to start. I need to get involved. Uh, Talk about the importance of team, whether it be a coach or whether it be peers.
Yeah.
And in getting involved, sometimes it's best to do that with someone else or with a group of other people, because peer pressure and peer
Definitely.
support can actually have a tremendous amount of help and be a
Yeah,
tremendous.
definitely. Yeah, research says that if you start some type of a movement exercise pattern with a buddy or another person, that you're going to be successful. So I do encourage that. Some of my clients are maybe a little bit more loners, and they're a little bit more self-motivated, and they do fine doing things by themselves. But I have other athletes, and it just depends. Everyone has different personalities. Everyone is either extroverted or introverted. I have athletes that I know, for them to be motivated, they need to go out and do, you know, that group walk, or they need to go to that booty camp, or they need to take this class from somebody. So that external motivation is really important. And if you're having a hard time getting started, definitely, you know, find a friend who might want to go through the process with you, or hire a coach to help you, and they'll be in your corner, pushing you along the way.
Great. Amy, we need to wrap up here soon, so maybe I'll give you a few minutes to just share any last minute ideas or thoughts or comments that you wanted to share that haven't come out yet. Anything you want to say in conclusion?
You know, I just think, like, with our times that we're going through right now, there are so many things, and we mentioned this before, that are not controllable at all. But one thing that you do have control of right now is your health and your mental well-being. And by moving more, and it doesn't cost anything. So if some of us have some financial hardships right now, it doesn't cost anything to move and to help us think a little bit more clearer. I know I have a local park, and I've never seen so many runners in my whole entire life than right now, because a lot of the gyms are closed, right? A lot of us are losing the motivation because our gyms are closed, and we're the kind of person that needs that external and that group motivation. So, you know, during this time, if you can find someone virtually who can help you stay motivated, that's great. I've gotten a couple clients that their gyms have closed, and they needed accountability and they needed structure. So that's where I stepped in, and I helped them. But, you know, it's never too late to try a new thing. It doesn't have to be running. It doesn't have to be biking. It could be buying a kayak and going out on your local lake or your local river with your kayak. It could be rollerblades. It could be something that's movement based that you really, really enjoy. I think the biggest thing is to find something you really enjoy and do it with people you enjoy being with, and that's going to keep you motivated. And if something that kept you motivated no longer keeps you motivated anymore, find something different to do that's movement based. I think that's really important to just keep moving forward. It's a different definition for different people, and throughout different seasons of your life, it might be different than what it was 5 years ago. I'm personally in a different season where I no longer compete professionally. So I got my old rollerblades that I haven't rollerbladed on from 10 years ago out this year, and I started rollerblading again because it's moving, and it was something that started interesting me again. So again, interest, make sure it's something you're really interested in, and you enjoy being around the people while doing it, other people while you're doing it.
It's great advice. That reminds me, the other night I was out mowing the lawn and I looked up and there's this family of, I think, 2 parents and probably 4 kids all on rollerblades, rollerblading through the neighborhood. I thought, what a great family activity.
Exactly. Right.
Well, Amy, you have been fantastic. Thank you so much for being our guest today. We're going to conclude now, and I will tell you that our guest panelist for Monday, May 18th, will be my friend Jim Purcell, who was the CEO of Blue Cross Rhode Island from 2004 to 2012, and thereafter founded the Returns on Wellbeing Institute. Following this huddle, you'll all receive a survey. We would ask that you fill that out and give us some feedback on how we can make it better. We're always looking for ideas, suggestions on guest panelists, as well as topics, so please share those with us. You can contact us through the Contact Us page on our Going on Offense website. We want to thank the wonderful organizations that have gotten behind this effort, and many have offered free or discounted services. Please check those out on our website. There's also a whole host of resources, ideas, suggestions, again, on battling the challenges of emotional well-being during this time when there's a lot of things that aren't going right. Let's go on offense and try to make those better. Again, want to thank Amy for your participation today. It's been delightful. You've given us some great ideas and suggestions. We want to remind everyone we do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and hope you'll join us for an upcoming huddle. Again, thank you, Amy, and we'll see you later.